dire-diretso na po tayo para sa ating usapang pangkalusugan at nagbabalik ang ating mga kasama this morning. Walang iba kundi si Doc JM po. Isa po siyang internist and endocrinologist and also the current Vice President of the Philippine Association for the Study of Overweight and Obesity. Ayan, para pag-usapan sa atin yung patungkol dito sa obesity. Doc JM, welcome back. Good morning.
Welcome back, Doc JM.
Hi, good morning everyone. Namiss ko na kayo. How have you all been?
Good morning po.
How are you? Long time
How are you?
We're doing okay.
How are you,
Basta
Doc?
hindi surge, we are fine. That's good. Pag surge,
That's
talaga
good,
natotoxic
that's good.
kami.
Okay, that's
Okay.
great. All right.
Ganda ng topic natin today, napapanahon. Kasi alam nyo naman, 'di ba, kapag hindi lang kapag start of the month, marami talaga ang yung very conscious dito, 'di ba, sa ating pag-uusapan. Ano ba yung ating topic for today, Doc JM? Very interesting.
Okay, so sa March 4, that's this Friday, we are celebrating World Obesity Day. So ito, effort ng World Obesity Federation to reduce, prevent, and treat obesity. And so we're trying to increase awareness on obesity, mga complications niya. Ano bang pwede natin gawin para ma-reduce ang obesity? And it's good to see you, Erica. The last time I saw you, mga 50 pounds ago. We were also talking about obesity
Ganun kayo
at that
katagal.
time. Oo. So,
Sige, Doc JM.
amazing.
Pag-usapan na natin. Pero ano ba muna ang obesity at saka papaano mo ba masasabi na ang isang tao ay obese?
Okay, so may mga measures naman tayo to determine kung may obesity ang isang tao. One of these measures is body mass index. So kahit mag-online lang kayo, i-search nyo lang yung body mass index. Enter your weight in kilograms and your height in meters squared. And if it's 25 and above, then you are considered overweight already. If it's 30 and above, then it's obese. A simpler way is to just measure your waist circumference. So get a tape measure, measure your waist after a normal exhalation, and then if it's 90 centimeters or more in males or 80 centimeters or more in females, then you are considered overweight. Inches about
Dapat pala kapag minimeasure ito, hindi ba dapat naka-stomach in?
Around 30.5 for females. Okay. After a relaxed exhalation yan. So hindi nga pwede yung huminga ka malalim tapos susukatin yung waist circumference mo.
Oo,
Daya
huwag
yun.
tanggap.
Kulay violet ka na, tsaka ka nagsukat, diba? Wala nang laman na hangin yung diaphragm mo. All right. Sige po, Doc.
And we are worried that the next pandemic will not be an infectious disease pandemic. Ang susunod na pandemic ng obesity na talaga eh. Kasi talagang dumadami ang mga bilang na may obesity sa Pilipinas. Ang pinakahuling datos natin from 2018, 37.2 of Filipino adults are overweight or obese na po. So more than one-third.
Wow. That's a large chunk of the population right there. Doc JM, ano ba yung cause nito? Bakit ba nagiging obese ang isang tao? Ano ba to? Sa mga kinakain lang ba ito exactly? Sa lifestyle? Meron bang pinapanganak na obese?
Okay, so generally lifestyle disease, obesity, too much energy coming in, too much calories that you are not burning through physical activity. Lalo na ngayong pandemic, we are left in our homes. Sabi niyo nga kanina, we are working from our homes a lot and we still want to stay working from homes, but that reduces our physical activity. People aren't able to exercise as much and we tend to consume unhealthy foods because of the availability of very high sugar sweetened beverages and mga foods with added sugars. Those are the ones that are really causing it. Although, tama ka, genetics do play a role in obesity. May mga families tayo na lahat naman sila hindi man malakas kumain pero lahat sila overweight. And then there are families naman na lakas kumain. Wala naman overweight sa kanila, no? But something we know is that sa mga panahon ng famine, walang makain ng tao, even obese families will lose weight. So it's something that can be overcome.
All right.
What age, Doc JM, na kailangan mong wina-watch out itong obesity, no? Kasi pag sinabi nila mga bata, I'm sure may mga bata rin nagsasuffer ng obesity. But sabi nila, yung ibang mga magulang, hayaan nyo lang kumain kasi bata pa sila. At what age should we watch out dun sa inyong mga anak, sa mga kinakain nila? Para maiwasan itong obesity.
From childhood pa lang, you have to be careful with your children because there's a tendency for them to develop habits and cravings as early as
Yes.
childhood, so that when they reach adulthood, they cannot control their cravings and habits anymore. So really
Totoo
try
yan.
to
Right.
not get them addicted to sugar, because sugar is really very addicting talaga. So when
So
you give
true,
child
it
lots of
is.
sugars, especially pag rewards is food. They do something good, they do good in school, and then you reward them with food. Later on in life, when they do something good, when they are successful, they will tend to reward themselves with food. So as early as childhood, you have to teach them healthy eating habits and keep them off their screens and make them physically active talaga as children.
All right.
Meron kayong theme for the obesity month, no? Yung everybody should act. Tama po ba ako doon? Can you tell
So
us
this
more
one is
about it?
everybody needs to act. So this
Needs
is
to
something
act,
that involves
yes.
everyone already. So all over the world, mga 800 million people are already overweight and obese, and this will lead to complications. More people will become diabetic, mas marami magkaka-hypertension, and other complications, cancer, strokes, heart attacks, gallstones, pancreatitis. All the complications of obesity will come after few years.
All right. So Doc JM, kapag yun yung question ko sana, ano yung kaakibat na na sakit, no? Ano yung daladalang sakit ng mga taong obese pero pag merong pumunta sa inyo na medyo overweight na nga ato, siguro sabihin na nating obese, paano po yung ginagawa ninyo diyan? Pwede ba natin sabihin ginagamot? Sakit ba to? Or merong ano yung mga lifestyle changes na kailangan gawin para hindi na tayo pumunta doon sa next step na magkakasakit na because of the the obesity.
Okay, so obesity has been recognized by the World Health Organization as a disease already. So tama kayo,
it's a
sakit na
disease
talaga ang
already.
obesity. So when we assess our patients, we ask them about their dietary habits, their physical activity, and then recommend. So generally, for me, I tell my patients to really reduce your caloric intake. Bawasan lahat ng kinakain. It's not just a matter of reducing one type of food. Some patients will say, I stopped eating rice, but I've eaten a lot of bread. So pareho lang. Pareho naman silang carbohydrates. It's really a matter of reducing all the calories that are coming in. Siguro a simple way to do it is just remove about 25% of what you used to eat. Ganito karaming kinakain mo dati, tanggalin mo ang 1/4. And then remove sugar. Sugar is really the new enemy. For the longest time, akala natin fats were the enemy, but we realized sugar pala ang nagkukos ng obesity pandemic, ng diabetes pandemic.
Yan
We
pala ang
worked with
salamin,
Congress
no?
to reduce, to increase taxation for sugar-sweetened beverages.
Yeah,
Kaya mas mahal na ngayon yung mga soft drinks saka sugar-sweetened beverages.
Yung
Alam
mga-
talaga natin.
Mga
nakakataas ng
tawag dito,
obesity rate.
fruit juices.
Ay, oo.
Okay.
Tama yan.
So, especially the sweetened fruit
Fructose.
juices, no? So if you're able to take in fruit juice, maybe half a glass per meal is fine, maybe 1 glass. But make sure may nakasulat na unsweetened or no sugar added dyan sa label niya. And if you can later on,
Dapat talaga yung
after removing
labels,
sugar-sweetened beverages, remove foods with added sugars. So read your food labels. If you see something that says glucose, sucrose, maltose, fructose, try to remove it from your diet na rin and reduce your caloric intake. Of course, increase physical activity, exercise at least 30 minutes per day, cardio sana. If you can go up to 60 to 90 minutes, mas maganda. May mga gamot to treat obesity. Okay, so sometimes we prescribe medicines also to treat obesity.
Ano po? Ano po?
Okay,
Anong
so
ginagawa
one of
niyo?
the-
Ano yung ginagawa?
Okay, one of the medications is called Orlistat. It's over the counter. You can buy it without a prescription. When you take Orlistat with your food, 20 to 30% of the fats you eat do not get absorbed. Lalabas sa dumi. Yan ang side effect ni Orlistat. Oily stools. And some patients will realize na ang dami ko palang kinakain na taba kasi 20-30% lang lumalabas. Ang dami na. And when they change their diet para hindi
Parang
magka-oily
nagiging aware
stools,
ka
dun
na,
sila pumayat. We also have Phentermine, which can suppress the appetite. But Phentermine is short-term lang, mga 3 months. And recently, we have an injectable drug called liraglutide that suppresses the appetite. It's a bit expensive. Tapos ini-inject pa sa chan every day. But available locally,
Every
really
day.
decreases the appetite nakakawalang gana kumain talaga yung liraglutide. So just recently available
kapag
since last
ganun,
year.
But if you stop it, babalik
Oo.
din. Baka mag-crave
Ano yun?
magkaroon ka ng cravings.
Di ba magre-rebound yun, Doc? Ano?
Oo, parang ganon.
Oo.
So some patients rebound, but some patients are able to maintain since nasanay na sila with the decreased food intake and the increased physical activity. They're able to sustain their weight loss. Very important for weight loss talaga yung physical
Yes.
activity or exercise.
Totoo. Mahirap kasi makampante tapos babalik ulit sa dati. We don't wanna go back to that. Sayang naman ang in-effort natin. Doc JM, dun sa dalawang minention nyo, yung isa over the counter and yung dalawa, you can only get access. Guided talaga ng doctor, ano?
Kasi
Correct. So phentermine
Oo.
and liraglutide are prescription medications. Kailangan talaga ng reseta para makabili niya.
And Doc JM, if you're obese, ano ba yung dapat na mga laboratory test na kailangang ipagawa sa isang tao na medyo malaki?
Okay, so basically we screen for diabetes, so we do a fasting blood sugars. We screen for high cholesterol, so we do a lipid profile. We check for high levels of uric acid in the blood as well. And then we do a CBC and creatinine. Sometimes we test for thyroid function tests just to see if you have a slow thyroid or hypothyroidism causing your obesity. So at least a TSH for that one.
All right. And going back
Yung
sa celebrate, di ba? Sige, go ahead, Rina.
Hindi, kaya sinabi ko lang yung mga bata ngayon, that's their problem eh. They don't have the physical activity. Nakatutok lang sila dun sa kanilang mga tablet. Unlike nung generation natin na talagang pinapalabas tayo ng mga magulang natin to play, di ba? Ngayong pandemic naging problema yan because the kids right now, they're all about gadgets right now. Nakatutok talaga sila doon. So parang marami din nagsasuffer ng mga bata ngayon ng obesity. Just to add to that, yung sinabi kanina ni Doc JM.
Oo. Tsaka yung
I think
sinabi din ni Doc JM kanina, start them young na Doc JM. Start them young. Meron mga programs po na yung mga sa mga, di ba, breastfeeding, di ba, after 6 months, you give them the healthy food, yung mga nutritious food. Meron akong sinunod na program before Doc JM na hanggang 1-year-old no salt and sugar for the children. Yung mga anak ko po ay dumaan sa gano'n na talagang hindi sila nakatikim ng asukal at asin hanggang mag 1-year-old. Mga 1 year and 3 months na sila nakatikim yan. And yung preservation of virgin gut hanggang 2 years old, no meat. So fruits and vegetables lang sila hanggang 2 taon. Siguro 2 years and 2 months, yan pina-chicken ko na sila noon pa lang. So ang maganda kasi bata pa lang sila natitrain na sila. So hindi nila hahanapin. Tama si Doc JM kapag lumaki kasi sa matatamis yung bata, lalo na kung
madadala mo sa
may
pagtanda
history
talaga.
sa family, oo, nahahanap na nila yun. Oo, Doc JM.
Correct. So be very careful with your children as early as the early childhood days. I-psychologize nyo na avoid sugary foods and increase physical activity. If I'm right, the Philippine Pediatric Association recommends limiting the amount of screen time to about 2 hours for very young kids and maybe up to 4 hours for older kids. So the screen time might be a problem talaga. It decreases their physical activity.
Dapat nga Doc JM, yung mga babies, yung mga 1-year-old, 2 years old, di pa nagsa-screen time yan eh. 'Di ba? Yung pinag-aralan nila before na yung masyadong mabilis yung nakikita nila, hindi na pa-process ng brain masyado, tapos yung tantrum sila nadadagdagan, naiiba yung ugali ng bata. So hindi lang talaga pagkain yung kailangang binabantayan dyan na Doc JM. Going back sa isi-celebrate natin sa March 4, diba? You've mentioned already yung theme. So how are you going to do it po? Ngayong pandemic, syempre medyo limited.
Okay, so we are just doing these different advocacy programs and advocacy activities. We are going on social media. If you're on social media, do a hashtag World Obesity Day and take your picture with your hand in the O position.
How do you do it?
And we are
Taas
trying
mo
to
nga, Doc
go to
JM.
the hospital.
Taas mo konti, Doc JM. Ayu?
Okay. Mamaya, ask you to take a
po.
picture, please. And then,
Sige. Sige, go.
Ayan, sige.
Gusto ko yan,
So, this is to increase awareness in obesity. Go to your social media. Visit us on our obesity website, the Philippine Association for the Study of Overweight and Obesity at obesity.org.ph. And visit us on our social media, PASOO.obesity on Facebook. PASOO_obesity on Twitter naman. Okay, and be aware.
Maganda yan, magandang
everyone has to be
movement.
mindful of our weight eh.
Yes,
Apa.
yes. I'm curious, ilang percentage ang tinaas ng kaso ng obesity dito sa ating bansa 2 years sa starting the pandemic ng 2020? Meron
Okay,
po ba
I only have
tayong
data
rate
between-
niyan?
Wala pa. So my data is between 2016 to 2018 when the FNRI did their last survey, from 31.1% naging 37.2%.
Wow.
I don't think the
Wow.
FNRI is able to do a survey during the pandemic kasi.
Mhm.
Oo. Dapat mas maging aware tayo kasi syempre, alam mo yon, you have more chances na magdelikado kapag obese
Mas
ka tapos may
maraming
COVID
sakit.
pa. Oo, complications pa. No? Gandang topic nito ha, awareness.
Oo. Sa
Yung
ginagawa
sa mga-
nyo,
Go ahead, Ate
sa
Beth.
ginagawa niyo, Doc JM, of course, hindi lang naman ito sa March 4 lang kasi ito talaga yung inyong advocacy. Ano po yung mga programs ninyo, yung all year round, papatungkol dito sa inyong advokasya?
Okay, so we do lay forums at different parts of the country. We used to travel around and increasing awareness. We also do workshops on obesity for our healthcare workers, whether it's for the nurses, the dietitians, or the physicians who manage people with obesity. We also work with hospitals to have programs for obesity and encourage different hospitals to have an obesity center that really focuses on managing patients with obesity. Okay, there are some surgical procedures that are treatments for obesity, although they are very costly. Isa na dyan ang bariatric surgery, where we go into your stomach
yes.
and either cut off a portion or put a sleeve around it. And because of the smaller space of the stomach, patients are unable to eat, and that causes them to lose weight and reverse all their complications. No?
Uy, nice yun. Yung mga fad diets, Doc JM, dun sa mga gustong mag-lose ng weight, marerekomenda nyo ba yan sa kanila?
Okay, so when they did a study on the different fat diets, so it didn't matter if you decreased your carbohydrate intake or your fats or your proteins. Basta you lessened the amount of calories coming into your body, that was a good predictor of weight loss. Also, if you were compliant to the diet. So wala kayong mga cheat days and you continued your diet strictly, that is also a good predictor of weight loss. Now, kasi usong-uso nga yung mga fad diets, if my patients ask me if they can do intermittent fasting, then I do allow. Among the different intermittent fastings, the one that seems to be recommended by the local guidelines is the alternate day fasting, which means you eat as much as you normally eat on one day, and then on the second day, the next day, you hardly eat at all, less than 10% of what you took in on a regular day. So the alternate day fasting or the 5-2 fasting, which means you eat normally on 5 days of the week, and then 2 days of the week you do not eat at all.
But you still watch your calorie intake sa mga diets that you've mentioned, Doc JM.
So the reduced calorie intake is the one that's really predictive of weight loss. More people are successful if you can really just lessen that amount of calories coming into your body.
If you're trying to,
Gandang topic nito.
Luan, last na lang, Lina, if you're trying to lose, para ano pa rin siya, sync pa rin. If you're trying to lose weight, ilang calories po ba per day dapat ang ini-intake natin?
Okay, so you have to compute how much calories you need. There are calorie calculators online to determine how much you use on a daily basis, and then reduce around 500 from that total. So kahit i-search nila yung mga
500.
basal metabolic rate, enter your age, your weight, and your physical activity, then reduce about 500 to 600 calories from that basal metabolic rate. And that should be generally good for you.
All right.
Doc JM, you've mentioned about food, about exercise, about yung mga diet na yan. But also, di ba, factor din po dyan yung sleep and stress because that also causes metabolic problems and leads to obesity po.
Totoo
Correct.
yan.
So we've already learned that lack of sleep is associated with higher risk of developing obesity and increase in stress, whether it's psychological, emotional, mental stress, also associated with increased risk for obesity. So we ask everyone to get adequate sleep. During the pandemic, I think people were sleeping more, but were exercising less naman. And siguro yung stress ng pandemic, a lot of people are also tending to gain weight and increase their food intake. So try to avoid stress, although it's very hard to tell a patient to avoid stress. Kasi I think naturally naman we want to avoid stress, we just can't avoid it talaga.
Totoo yan eh. Sabi nga nila, di ba, I eat stress for breakfast. Ako, grabe. Grabe naman yun. In relation, Doc, doon sa katanungan ni Rina, ano po ba yung tamang, as a doctor, ano po ba yung tamang mindset na gusto niyo i-share sa ating mga kababayan? And then for all those who are listening right now, ano ba yung tamang mindset para mapanatili natin ang ating mga sarili sa tamang timbang na healthy?
Okay, so we really have to be disciplined in choosing our food. It's very tempting, especially when there's a lot of unhealthy food available. They really do taste good, and they're really
Totoo
rewarding.
yan.
Especially when we eat sugary foods and fatty foods. But you have to consider your health primarily, yes. So down the line, 5-10 years from now, will you still be normal? Will you be having diabetes already? Will you be hypertensive or have other complications of obesity just because you decided to eat these foods now? So think of your long-term health. We have a lot of people who do regret their lifestyle habits later on when they develop obesity and the complications of obesity. I should have avoided these foods when I was young. I should have exercised when I was young, but I didn't. And now I'm obese. Now I have diabetes. And I've had a stroke or a heart attack. So be disciplined lang and be mindful of your health by taking care of your weight naman.
No, JM, papayo mo ba sa amin na kasi sabi nila, sige, you can eat cakes, basta konti lang, tikim lang. Pwede mo bang sabihin sa amin na sige, tumikim ka, pero baka kasi pag tumikim, hindi na makalimutan or wag na lang talaga.
Nagsimula daw sa tikim-tikim.
Okay. So sugar is very addictive talaga. So they've done studies naman talaga that the parts of your brain that are associated with addiction do light up when you eat sugary foods. So it can be as addicting as cigarettes, for example, or other unhealthy vices. So if you can try to avoid sugar lang talaga, I think that will be very helpful. Unless you have the discipline talaga na talagang titikim ka lang talaga. I think important also, we don't reward ourselves once we lose weight. So may mga patients that when they start losing weight, they start rewarding themselves. Siguro I can have a little bit of cake kasi pumayat na ako. Siguro I can exercise less na kasi I've already lost weight. And they rebound nga and gain that weight again. So be careful with that
naman.
one.
Pero may mga good sugar ba, Doc JM? Sabi kasi nila, sige, at ito okay to cocoa sugar, mas okay ito honey. Pero may mga nabasa rin ako na it's still sugar. Sugar is sugar. Kahit anong klase ang sabihin good sugar, pero sugar pa rin. Kayo po, ano po yung take nyo doon?
So sugar is still sugar, so I still advise patients to try to avoid sugar in any form talaga. And even the artificial sugars, no? So there are a lot of artificial sugars or things, aspartame, acesulfame, sucralose. There are studies coming out that people who take in a lot of the artificial sugars, sila pa yung maaga nagkaka-diabetes, sila pa yung maaga nagiging obese. So be careful about your artificial sugar intake. They think that the brain, because it tasted something sweet, nag-expect yung utak ng sugar rush na hindi naman dumating. So the brain will make you crave sugar again later. So that seems to be the reason why the artificial sugars do end up causing obesity and diabetes.
Yung mga fruits yung mga fruits na yung mga fruits na mataas sa sugar like mango, mga grapes,
as fructose nila.
Sugar pa rin.
Okay, so we still advise patients that they can take in fruits but only in small quantities. Usually what can fit in the palm of your hand na flat lang. If it's mango per meal, maybe 1 cheek. If it's grapes, maybe 5 to 8 grapes. But not too much lang.
Isang kilo pa naman kumain mga tao dito.
Grabe.
May mga bata.
The nice thing about fruits, they have fiber, no? And they have a lot of nutrients. They have a lot of vitamins and minerals that are important. So the fiber helps trap sugars in the intestines kasi. Fiber is not absorbed. When you take fiber with your food, it can help trap some of the sugars and fats in the intestines. And that's actually one strategy for obesity also, to increase your fiber intake. No? So there are studies to show that if you increase fiber in your diet, maybe choose brown rice instead of white rice, wheat bread instead of white bread, green leafy vegetables and fruits that are high in fiber. That can be a strategy to help you lose weight.
Mga alternatives, ano? I love it. Gandang topic ito, ha? Naku,
GM, I have one last
talaga.
question pa. Do you also handle yung mga athletes, no? Kasi may mga athletes na after nila na maging competitive dun sa isang sport, no, they really gain weight. Like for example, mga swimmers, because they do take a lot of mga carbs talaga. Sanay sila, tapos nagsaswimming sila, nag-exercise sila. But after a while, you see them grow big talaga, no? So do you also handle this cases, yung mga athletes naman who suffer from obesity po?
Okay, so a lot of the athletes who gain weight have gained muscle mass naman, but when they stop exercising or their competitive sports, they're still eating a lot. So there's a tendency for that extra food that comes in to be converted to fat. So we really advise them to eat in accordance naman with your physical activity. So if you're not exercising as much, you're not competing anymore, then maybe you have to reduce your food intake. Baka kasi nasanay ka sa malakas na food intake, you have to adjust accordingly dun sa physical activity mo.
Gusto ko yun, itataga ko yan.
Ganyan.
Tataga natin sa bato yan, ha? Kumain ayon sa galaw mo.
Hika si Doc JM yung kanilang activity on March.
Yes, Doc JM, please promote yung ating yung inyong activity on March 4, itong Everybody Needs to Act.
Okay, so on March 4, we are celebrating World Obesity Day. This is a global effort to reduce, prevent, and treat obesity. This is initiated by the World Obesity Federation and the Philippine Association for the Study of Overweight and Obesity. We can't do our lay forums and activities right now, so maybe please go on social media, use the hashtag World Obesity Day, and make that circle logo with your hands and take a picture of yourself so that you can encourage people to be more aware about obesity, the complications of obesity. Yes. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to inform people about the awareness of obesity.
Alright. May mga social
Maasahan mo
media,
kami dyan.
Doc JM, na they can check, no, regarding your activities. We'll do it later para kasama si Angel. Social media. Doc JM, alam ko, busy ka. Pero pwede a little time lang para to answer po yung mga natin, concerns, questions ng ating mga kasangbahay with Miss Angela. Miss.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Oo.
Hi, Doc JM!
Hi, good morning, good morning. Kamusta na kayo?
Good morning! Oo, it's so nice to see you. And syempre, ito meron akong mga dalang questions for you mula sa ating mga televiewers at kanilang mga health concerns. Doc, unahin ko na to si Roel Dino. Ang kanyang katanungan, Doc, tuwing nagdidighay po ako, sumasakit ang dibdib ko. Ano po kaya ang pwedeng dahilan nito? Hindi naman po masakit ang sikmura ko, pero lagi pong ganoon ang nararamdaman ko tuwing didighay. Doc, ano siya? 43 years old.
Okay, so classic symptom of reflux. So yung acid sa stomach maaaring umakyat sa esophagus instead of going down into the intestine. So avoid foods that cause hyperacidity. Ito yung mga maanghang, maasim, fruit juices, siyempre soft drinks, nandiyan na rin, and other teas and coffees and sometimes chocolates also. Do not lie down right after eating kasi if you lie down, there's a tendency yung food bumabalik nga sa esophagus. And if you are overweight, lose weight. Kasi because of the extra space in your stomach, food cannot go down into the intestines. Tinutulak ng pressure yung pagkain pabalik sa esophagus. There are medicines to help with that one. Yung mga over-the-counter, yung mga aluminum magnesium preparations, mga over-the-counter antacids. And there are other prescription medications that will help decrease the acid secretion in the stomach and push the food down into the intestines.
Ayun. Okay, Doc, we have another question naman mula kay Rina May Caballero. Ito ang kanyang katanungan. Itatanong ko lang po kung ano ang pwedeng dahilan ng hindi ko pagtaba. Matakaw po ako, Doc. Halos nakaka 2 to 3 cups of rice per meal palagi, pero hindi pa rin ako tumataba. Madalas din po ako magpawis, kaya nagbabaon ako lagi ng ekstrang damit. Kapag aalis, parang nagjo-jogging po ako lagi kahit po naka-aircon dahil nagpapawis pa rin ako. Natatakot na po ako, baka po kasi may sakit na ako. Doc, siya ay 30 years old. Yan. Sana matulungan niyo po ako. Yan.
So for weight loss and increased sweating, we always think of hyperthyroidism. No? So you might want to be screened for hyperthyroidism. Blood test po yan, TSH lang naman. Some chronic diseases can cause weight loss also, including tuberculosis. That's why in patients who have difficulty gaining weight,
Nawala si Doc. Oh, nawala si
Sorry.
Doc. Pero yun nga, no? So, okay. Yan, Doc, are you there?
okay,
Yan.
sige. So
Ayun.
think
Go
of
ahead pa.
hyperthyroidism, pag increased sweating and difficulty in gaining weight. And then also think of chronic diseases like pulmonary tuberculosis. Kaya get a chest x-ray just to be sure. There are some people na talaga naturally kahit malakas kumain hindi tumataba. So that might be just a genetic component lang.
Oo. Naalala ko, Doc, ma-share ko lang. Dati ganyan din ako eh. Sabi ko, ba't di ako tumataba? Pero nagpa-screen naman ako. Clear naman ako sa hyperthyroidism. So, yun. Sige. Yun ang mga dapat gawin ng ating nag-submit ng kanyang question kanina. But we have one more question mula naman kay Justin May Layug. Doc, napansin ko po na parang may thyroid problem ako dahil sa liig ko 5 months ago, pero di ko kasi kaagad pinansin. Tapos itong buwan lang po, napansin ko parang may bukol na po yung liig ko sa left part. Hingi lang po sana ako ng advice kung ano ang dapat gawin dito. Pwede po kayang diretsyo na ipa-opera ito. 34 years old po ako. Maraming salamat po sa pagsagot.
Okay, so mukhang may bukol sa thyroid si Justin May Layug po. No? So maraming adults na may bukol sa thyroid, as much as 35% ng adults may bukol sa thyroid. Hindi naman lahat ng bukol sa thyroid ay nakakatakot or kailangan operahan. Ang takot lang natin kung cancer, no? But the chance that a thyroid nodule is cancerous is very low. Mga 7 to 15% lang. So hindi dapat na lahat na may bukol sa thyroid nagpapa-opera na agad. We should get an ultrasound first. So magpa-ultrasound kayo ng thyroid. Get a blood test, yung TSH or thyroid stimulating hormone. And if we see na malaki na yung bukol mo sa ultrasound, baka kailangan natin tusukin ng karayom para malaman natin kung kailangan operahan later on. But do not go straight to surgery because the chance of it being cancer is very low lang.
Ayun. So, alright. Dun sa mga nagtanong po at kinakailangan po nila ng mga assistance regarding sa kanilang mga medical concern, maaari po silang tumawag dito sa ating himpilan sa UNTV, no, para mas ma-assist natin sila sa kanilang mga medical na problema. But on that note, that sums up our ikonsulta mo segment. And of course, maraming salamat po sa inyo, Doc JM ko. It's so nice to have you back on the show. And of course, maraming salamat sa pagsagot din. Yes! And of course, yung sa ating usapan pang kalusugan kanina na napakaganda ninyong pinag-usapan. But once again, meron po kayong event, itong World Obesity Day. Can you please promote and invite our televiewers about it?
So again, World Obesity Day is on March 4. That's this Friday. We want to increase awareness on obesity, yung complications ng obesity, and that obesity is something we can do. We can take care of and manage so that we can avoid the complications of this dreaded disease. Disease na talaga po ang obesity ngayon. So on March 4, maybe go on your social media, promote awareness in obesity, use the hashtag World Obesity Day, and make that circle logo. So this is the Filipinos.
Nawala ulit si
Social
Doc.
media.
Yun.
And go for look in our Facebook page, PASOO.obesity, Instagram also, and PASOO_obesity on our Twitter page. So join us on social media for increasing awareness on obesity this Friday.
Maasahan mo kami
Let's do it,
dyan.
Doc. Ganito ba?
Let's do it, Doc.
Let's do the
Angela,
Sure na. Para ma-screenshot.
Let's do it
Ayan.
na. Oo.
Yan. Again.
Okay.
Alright. Maraming
Alright,
salamat
thank
ulit
you.
sa inyo, Doc JM ko. It's so nice to have you. And of course, si Doc Joseph giving his regards to you. Ingat po kayo,
Okay,
Doc,
hi.
and hope to see you again soon.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Doc
Thank you very
JM.
much.
Nice to see you.
Okay lagi.
Thanks so much, Doc JM. Doc, hindi ko Doc Jason.